Welcome to the Coach Debbie Potts Show, where high performers learn how to stop guessing and start aging stronger, not slower. Your host is Coach Debbie Potts, functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, metabolic health coach, and host of this show. Here, we dive into the why behind fatigue, stubborn weight, hormone chaos, gut issues, and declining performance. Using real data, functional lab testing, metabolism analysis, and simple daily habits that actually move the needle. Whether you're an endurance athlete, an executive, or simply committed to becoming your strongest future you, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
In middle age, I really hope that you are understanding we have to take ownership today and not wait until we're struggling. I want to be thriving as I age. So what we do in our 40s, especially in our 50s, should be hopefully taking ownership of our health today by understanding what changes as we age and not using the annoying excuse, I'm getting older, I can't do these things. This is my new normal. Those are pet peeves of mine, at least. And I want to teach you what we can do today to improve the foundation, your terrain, your internal environment, and understanding what changes as we age, as I keep sharing on different rabbit hole episodes, as I am a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, which means a health investigator. I'm also a nutritional therapy practitioner where we always work on the foundations first. I am an ex-competitive triathlete, marathoner, long-distance cycling, endurance athlete, and the author of Life is Not a Race. It is a journey because I started struggling with chronic stress disease or metabolic chaos, we would say. I thought it was adrenal exhaustion, but there's so much more that I've learned since then. In 2013, when it led me down this path to be the practitioner I needed back when I was struggling, when no one could help me figure out why am I gaining weight without doing anything? Why can I not sleep through the night? Why do I need a nap in the middle of the day? Why am I losing all my strength and power when I was just coming off my best triathlon season of my career? So my goal is to help you be your best self in the future, not just think you are superhuman, invincible, because you are a high performer, type A driven individual, but understand you may look good on the outside, but inside, the way we live life is slowly breaking you down from the inside out. So if you feel that you are someone that is doing everything right, you're doing the exercise, you're doing the healthy eating, you're taking supplements, you're trying every new biohack, but you still struggle with fatigue, digestion issues, inflammation, feeling stuck, feeling heavy, sluggish, poor recovery. Your brain's just not working right. You have all this brain fog. Basically, you just don't feel that you're aging as well as you should. So this episode for you and all my other rabbit hole episodes, this is what I'm trying to get across to you. I want to share some of the valuable lessons I've learned through the education I've been doing with the Vagus Nerve Society and their Vagus Nerve Certification course. And get you ready for having a guest on my show. I have 2 vagus nerve experts coming on the podcast this end of summer, early fall. I want you to know that I've completely changed my way of working with clients and treating clients, helping them improve their future you blueprint, or creating the future you blueprint really together. I don't believe nutrition is simply about calories or even just your macros. I'm learning more about nutrition as information. And every bite you eat, as I say, it's not just what you eat, but how you eat, when, where, why, is sending information through your own nervous system. And one of the biggest receivers of that information is something we talk about every episode, your vagus nerve. So I want to take this episode to connect the dots between vagus nerve nutrition, the gut-brain connection, the cholinergic anti-inflammatory pathway that I'm trying to study more because it's so freaking amazing how this body works, the innate intelligence and the microbiome, and how these microbes are giving us so much information. Inflammation, digestion, the terrain theory, how all of this is becoming a part of my Future You Blueprint signature program. So let's dive in. Food, it's information. It's not just what food, it tastes good, but something I keep learning and reading about from Dr. Nawaz Habib, who's doing a lot of information out there on vagus nerve, on his 2 books he's written, podcasting, he's got his own platform. Food is not simply fuel for your workout, fuel for energy during the day. We are learning food is information. Every meal is communicating with your body, not just your stomach, your muscles, your immune system, your microbiome, your hormones, your metabolism, even your brain. What I have been fascinated about the vagus nerve training is that 20% of the vagus nerves are efferent. They come from the brain to signal somewhere in the gut. 80% of the fibers inside the vagus nerve are afferent fibers. This means they carry information from the body, from the gut, to the brain. Think about that. Most people assume the brain is constantly telling the body what to do. But reality, most of the conversation is happening the opposite direction. Your gut is talking to your brain all day long. The quality of these messages determines how your brain responds. Is everything safe? Can we digest? Are we able to repair? Can we reproduce? Are we ready to recover? Or remember, we talk about the brain might be getting information thinking, are we under attack? Why? Should we stay inflamed? Should I hold on to the body fat? Should I increase more cortisol? Or should we shut down digestion? And this is why digestion is far more than breaking down our food. It's constantly updating your own nervous system. So if we look at the gut-brain conversation that I've discussed with different experts on the podcast, your gut is filled with millions of sensory receptors. These receptors are constantly monitoring your nutrients, your bacteria, short-chain fatty acids, inflammation, toxins, immune, stretch receptors, microbiome. It's those metabolites. That's what I keep looking at. It's so crazy. So the vagus nerve is carrying this information directly to the brainstem. This is what's tripping me out, how incredible our body is built. Specifically, this word I'm learning about, I'm not a neuroscientist. I did exercise science, college training, and health classes, but not brain health. The nucleus tractus solitarius, NTS. That information is then integrated through the brain. So the vagus nerve takes this information coming from the gut, signals that afferent nerves, 80%, going directly into the brainstem. That's called, the part here specifically in the brainstem is the nucleus tractus solitarius. Then that information is integrated throughout the brain, including the areas that help regulate everything. Your stress, your emotion, autonomic balance, your immune function, heart rate, breathing, sleep, energy, and metabolism. So this means poor digestion is not just a digestive problem. Poor digestion can also be part of a nervous system problem. And this is what I keep seeing more and more with patients or doctors that I work with, their patients, my clients, seeing this pattern. And then when I interviewed Dr. Kevin Tracy last year, I started diving into this more after I spoke with him, and then he's involved in the Vagus Nerve Society. This is one of the most fascinating discoveries in neuroscience that was discovered years ago from Dr. Kevin Tracy. He discovered that the vagus nerve helps regulate inflammation throughout something that's called the cholinergic anti-inflammatory pathway. Here's how it works. And I keep doing this podcast so I can get this in my head because it's so interesting to me. When inflammatory molecules begin to increase, The brain receives that information through these vagal afferent nerves. If the nervous system has a strong vagal tone, the brain is going to respond back. The brain will send signals back down the vagus nerve. And those efferent, remember efferents I think exit, the fibers coming from the brain are efferent fibers down the vagus nerve, release the neurotransmitter acetylcholine. And then acetylcholine binds to these immune cells, the receptor sites, especially macrophages. And by doing this, acetylcholine binding to these specific immune cells will suppress the inflammatory cytokines that you hear about, interleukin 6, IL-1 beta, and TNF alpha, and other inflammatory messengers. Think about that. Your nervous system literally has its own built-in inflammation brake. But the big aha I find is that the brake only works if your vagus nerve is functioning properly. So think about all that again. Order of operations. Summarize that and put that into your memory bank. I'm just going to restate what I just said because this is pretty major that I didn't learn from anywhere until I interviewed Dr. Kevin Tracy, and then started to learn more what he was actually talking about and how major research that I even heard that Dr. Kevin Tracy is pretty much who discovered all this research on the vagus nerve is people say should be up for a Nobel Prize. So it's pretty important that he identified the cholinergic anti-inflammatory pathway. And this has changed how scientists hopefully go into what he found, the role of inflammation. Because for decades, inflammation was believed to be controlled primarily by the immune system. And today we know that the nervous system is an active participant in regulating immune function. Your brain and your immune system are constantly having a conversation. And this is why I keep going into the signals we get from our body and what we send to our body. And how really what changes is this interesting conversation that our body's having, a communication highway. And the role of the vagus nerve I've learned about since 2012 when I was in Ben Greenfield's coaching program. Then we had a conference in 2013, and then I had my own domino effect of chronic stress health issues that I got into the heart rate variability testing and understanding the role of the vagus nerve since then, but really this past year. One of our body's most elegant survival mechanisms, the vagus nerve. So let's dive into this a little more, and then I'll go back to vagus nerve nutrition. So hang on. I just think this is important to push pause, and let's dive into this. Imagine you're exposed to an infection, an injury, poor food choices, overtraining, chronic stress, environmental toxins, or disrupted gut microbiome. Because as an active person, we are aging, we're out there exercising, we're exposed to different stressors. You're not invincible. You're fit and healthy on the outside, but this is what I'm trying to get across to you to make sure you're doing what you can be to be fit and healthy from the inside out at a cellular level. Your immune system responds to these different sources of stress by promoting or producing inflammatory messengers, we can say, cytokines. So we talked about a few different cytokines, but there's some others. And these inflammatory chemicals don't simply stay where they're produced. Again, it's information. It's just this whole communication network. Specialized sensory endings of the vagus nerve we went over are called vagal afferent fibers. They're continuously monitoring the body's internal environment. Again, think about this. 80% of the vagus nerve that you are measuring your vagal tone by your heart rate variability score, ideally not with an Aura or Whoop, but a heart rate strap to get a true measurement of your heart rate variability and the balance between your nervous system looking at low frequency and high frequency, getting into that data. But 80% of the vagus nerve consists of these afferent fibers carrying information from the gut and the organs back to the brain. So diving in, as inflammation goes up, we have more sources of information saying chronic inflammation is increasing. These sensory fibers detect the change in the environment. They relay the information. They're sending that message, sending that text message up to the brainstem, specifically the nucleus tractus solitarius, NTS, in the brainstem. From there, the brain integrates this information with signals from the hypothalamus, the limbic system, and the autonomic nervous system to determine the appropriate response. If the body perceives that this inflammation is excessive, the brain will respond by activating one of its most powerful reflexes. And in the interview with Dr. Kevin Tracy, he reflects on this as a knee reflex. So you went to the doctor as a kid and they hit that little spot on your knee and your leg would kick out. This is what he's saying is related to the vagus nerve reflex. The brain activates this powerful protective reflex. It sends a signal back to the remaining of the 20% vagus nerve fibers we went over called the efferents, think exit. And these motor fibers release the neurotransmitter acetylcholine, the primary chemical messenger of the parasympathetic nervous system. Remember, choline, acetylcholine. We've talked about the role of choline in other episodes because of this. And bile, phosphatidylcholine. We need choline. Comes from liver and eggs. So we'll go into that different episode. But as acetylcholine binds to specialized receptors on the immune cells, specifically the alpha-7 nicotinic acetylcholine receptor, big word. This is found on the macrophages and the other immune cells. So this binding to the receptor on the immune cells, acetylcholine binds to the immune cell. This action is similar to stop sign. The binding acts as a stop signal. Instead of allowing inflammation to continue increasing, acetylcholine, when everything goes right, acetylcholine suppresses the production of inflammatory cytokines as TNF-alpha, interleukin beta, and interleukin 6, while preserving the immune system's ability to fight infection. Think of this as your body's own built-in inflammation thermostat. The immune system pushes the accelerator when inflammation is necessary. The vagus nerve gently applies the brakes when enough inflammation has occurred. The Goldilocks effect for everything. This balance is critical. Without the ability to turn inflammation off, guess what happens? The body remains trapped in this chronic inflammation state, chronic inflammatory state. And chronic inflammation doesn't simply affect one organ. Remember, the body's all connected. The systems are connected. And we want to restore metabolic chaos to metabolic harmony. Nearly every system involved in healthy aging includes the gut barrier integrity, microbiome diversity, digestive function, insulin, mitochondria, cardiovascular, brain, hormones, muscle recovery, joint health, and immune resiliency. So when the vagal tone is low, often due to chronic psychological stress, poor sleep, nutrient deficiencies, overtraining, blood sugar dysregulation, gut dysbiosis, or ongoing inflammatory stress, the efficiency of this anti-inflammatory reflex declines. The result of the inflammatory signals remain elevated longer than necessary. The immune system becomes more reactive. The nervous system remains stuck in survival mode. Digestion slows down. Recovery becomes impaired. The gut barrier weakens. Pain sensitivity increases. Fatigue develops. And many people chasing symptoms without realizing the underlying communication system has broken down. This is why improving the vagal tone is so much more than just relaxing and doing breath work. and shifting to that parasympathetic state, getting out of sympathetic dominance. What I'm learning more about how to put this all together into my Future You blueprint is how we need to restore communication between the nervous system and the immune system. It's about rebuilding the body's natural ability to regulate inflammation instead of constantly fighting it. And this is key for people improving their aging process to be fit and healthy from the inside out, especially you, my fellow active athletes, aging athletes, active individuals. You don't have to be racing anymore as myself, but the more work we do, the more workouts, the more of everything we do, before we can optimize your metabolism, your hormones, your performance, your longevity, we must restore communication. And that's what I do with clients. And this is why I find I begin with creating flow, working on freeing the nervous system, improving lymphatic flow, enhancing oxygen delivery, nitric oxide signaling, supporting waste removal, opening up the drainage pathways, and restoring healthy bile flow. Because as the communication improves, we begin rebuilding your body's internal terrain. When your terrain becomes healthier, the vagus nerve receives better information from your gut. The brain responds more appropriately, inflammation becomes better regulated, and the body naturally shifts from survival to resiliency. So your body already has an incredible anti-inflammatory system. Our goal isn't to replace it, but our goal is to help it work the way it was designed to. So what can you do today to improve your gut health, your brain health, and understanding this pathway, how amazing it is? But I first want you to understand that chronic stress, as my background and my niche, is understanding how chronic stress impacts everything. My book I wrote, Life is Not a Race, It's a Journey, is to understand why did I get internal breakdown and burnout in my body's systems that I wasn't able to tolerate the stress load that other people are doing, or I had so many different stressors. So I dove into genetics, looked at nutrients that I need more of, and understanding the whole picture for my personalized Future You blueprint. Modern life constantly weakens this system. Our sleep, if you're not prioritizing sleep, we need to start here. If you're not cleaning up your food and avoiding ultra-processed foods, that's an issue. If you're overtraining and under recovery, if you have emotional stress you're not dealing with, if you're surrounded by environmental toxins, it's adding to that beaker of stress. If you're not controlling your alcohol intake and prioritizing your sleep hygiene routine, because alcohol will impact your deep sleep. Your quality of sleep is important. But watching the alcohol intake, the food you eat to manage your blood sugar, your gut health, your digestion process, your stomach acid, your poop, if you're constipated or have diarrhea, your bile. So all this increases your inflammatory signals. If we are sending safety message, that's great. But if you're sending danger signals, your brain will respond by staying in this survival mode. And you already know what happens. Digestion will slow down, recovery slows down, repair slows down. Even the healthy foods you think you're eating may suddenly create symptoms if our body is in sympathetic dominance survival mode. And our mitochondria get put on low battery mode, so everything's on low functioning at low levels. Think of that cell phone when your battery is 5% less, everything else gets shut down, and your body prioritizes survival. That's what you're doing to your body. Even if you think you're doing all the right things and you're struggling, I bet we need to start with addressing your stress load. The mitochondria, I'll talk to Martha Carlin more about in her new book on Parkinson's and looking at root cause for chronic diseases and understanding bacteria in our gut, the microbes, how they produce butyrate, acetate, propionate, the short-chain fatty acids. They also produce vitamins, neurotransmitters, anti-inflammatory compounds. These compounds support our gut health, our immune tolerance, mitochondria, vagus nerve. But when the microbiome becomes less balanced, we need to pay attention. The messages change. If we see on your lab you have less butyrate, we find you have more inflammation, your endotoxin load's high, you have leaky gut, we have this immune activation, the more stress signals reaching your brain, we get some insight of where we need to start on your health journey. So when your microbiome, if we see on functional lab testing, tie that with your blood chemistry panel, look at your nutritional therapy assessment, we need to say, hey, are we making our body feel safe? When I eat a meal, do I need to change how I set myself up? Mindful eating. Get rid of the constantly eating really quickly, eating on the go, chewing your food 2 times and you swallow. One of the biggest mindset shifts I've had recently is digestion creates safety when the stomach acid is adequate. Then the proteins will properly break down. Our minerals become absorbable. Bacteria stay where they belong. And digestive enzymes will be activated and the bile will be activated to release from the gallbladder. And so we have this sequence order of events. The migrating motor complex cleans the small intestine, sweeping through. It's like a Roomba, what do you call those little vacuums that just kind of keep going? Nutrients will reach the bloodstream. And then the brain will get this signal that everything's working, we're good, everyone's doing their job. We can create metabolic harmony. So digestion isn't simply absorbing nutrients, it's reassuring the nervous system we're safe. So this is why I've created this flow method. Before we optimize, we need to start making sure we have the flow. The nervous system, the lymph, the bile, the oxygen, nitric oxide, make sure the waste removal, drainage pathways are working. Because any of these systems, if they're not working, we don't get anywhere. We can't start throwing in all these gut repair supplements for you and go into the 5th phase when we haven't landed and done the first phase correctly. If we want the body to heal efficiently, we need to create flow first. The terrain is the internal environment. It's the quality of your cells, your immune system, the microbiome, the gut. So when your terrain improves, your body becomes more adaptable, more resilient, less inflammatory, and more responsive. So we want to reduce the total threshold. We want to restore the body's requirements, rebuild the biological communication, repair structure and function, and work on figuring out what is our goal. How should we eat? How should we set ourselves up for success with nutritional therapy first? Sending the right signals to our body. We are safe, we're ready to heal, repair, rebuild, and move on the right step. What should we do? That's where I look at what Dr. DeVos will talk about on the interview. Vagus nerve nutrition, how to feed the nervous system, as well as how to feed the microbiome in our brain. If we think of all this conversation today, if the vagus nerve is constantly listening, then how do we improve the quality of the conversation? So one of the biggest takeaways from my education in the Vagus Nerve Society and from Dr. Navaz, his work and his books, how we need to stop thinking about nutrition as simply feeding ourselves and fueling for our workout, but also think about how to feed the nervous system. So looking at vagus nerve nutrition, nutritional therapy, not just about hitting your macros and your protein goal to stimulate muscle protein synthesis, but also we want to look at what I call the vagus nerve food pyramid, the raw materials for our nervous system, our immune, our microbiome, digestive system all need to work efficiently and effectively. And remember, the vagus nerve depends on healthy digestion. When the vagus nerve, for healthy digestion, we need the adequate amounts of stomach acid to begin protein digestion. We need digestive enzymes to break the food down into absorbable nutrients. We need healthy bile flow from the gallbladder to digest fats and absorb fat-soluble vitamins. And we need the gut health, the barrier to be intact to keep the inflammatory compounds as LPS to become endotoxicity in the body. We want to keep that barrier closed. This depends on a diverse microbiome that produces beneficial metabolites, as we've talked about butyrate and the role of bile sending signals back to the brain. And it depends on having nutrients required to manufacture these neurotransmitters as acetylcholine, which is what we went over, the primary neurotransmitter of the parasympathetic nervous system. So this is what I've been diving into. If we look at not just what supplements I should take, let's understand what ingredients does my body require to communicate properly. Do you have enough high quality protein to provide the essential amino acids to repair our tissues and for neurotransmitter production? Are you consuming enough healthy fats that support cell membranes and nerve function? Are you eating colorful vegetables, polyphenol-rich foods that nourish your microbiome? And that depends on every person, because I don't like high fiber foods for someone that has some issues with their gut, having diarrhea, some SIBO. We want to have more of a low FODMAP food plan. So it depends. Polyphenol-rich foods are often easier for people with gut issues to feed the microbiome. And we want to make sure we're feeding the right beneficial bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids as butyrate. Also, I want to look into if you are absorbing key micronutrients as magnesium, zinc, B vitamins, choline, omega-3 fatty acids, vitamins A, vitamin D, and other nutrients essential for nerve signaling and immune regulation. Every one of these nutrients becomes part of this communication network. So when your digestion is compromised, when your stomach acid is too low, we want it acidic. You don't want to do an antacid. It's a wrong direction. When your bile isn't flowing, when the microbiome is disrupted, even the healthiest diet may not deliver the signals our body needs. And that's why, as a FDN practitioner or health investigator, I'm looking at more, what are you eating? No, but what are you digesting? What are you absorbing? What are your cells actually receiving? Because we need to have healthy cell membranes. We need to get the message sent not just on the cell, but into the cell. So nourishment isn't determined by what's on your plate. It's determined by what reaches your cells. When your nervous system receives the nutrients it needs, the vagal tone can improve. Digestion improves, the microbiome becomes more resilient, inflammation is more regulated through this cholinergic anti-inflammatory pathway. Hopefully we can see improvement in recovery, your energy, your mitochondria are back on full battery mode. So our body becomes more adaptable. And this is how we begin to build resiliency, not by chasing symptoms, but by restoring the body's biological communication systems that keep every other system functioning. Metabolic harmony. And this is how we build it, creating your own personalized future you blueprint. Remember, we want to get the messages sent. Message of safety, nourishment, and it's sending the signal, it's okay to repair, I'm ready to recover and build. Because your future you is not built by one perfect workout or one miracle supplement. What I'm trying to get out there is that it's built by thousands of biological conversations that are happening inside your body every day. So think of the order of operations and what we need to do today to be better tomorrow. Remember, nutrition is information. It's not just what you eat, but again, how you are eating. When are you eating? Why are you eating? Where? But let's take it to the next level. How is this information getting sent out? What I'm figuring out is one of the most powerful ways we can influence the vagus nerve, our immune system, microbiome, and ultimately how we age is improving the communication. Not just the calories, your carbs, protein, fat, but nutrition is communication. This is the information we want to get. So you don't need another extreme diet. You don't need 20 new longevity supplements. I challenge you to begin by supporting the biology your body already has. Start by slowing down before you eat. Take a few breaths of deep diaphragmatic breaths to activate your parasympathetic nervous system. to rest, digest, and repair state. You can't digest your food, no matter how good a food it is, efficiently if your brain perceives that you're still under attack, you're under threat, you're in emergency mode. Then I want you to make sure you are chewing your food thoroughly. Have you ever watched people eat? They're inhaling their food. Stop, get off your computer, get off your freaking phone, and focus on eating your food. Mindfully, not mindlessly. Chewing your food. Digestion starts in the mouth, where mechanical breakdown and digest enzymes prepare the food for absorption. Remember, it's that order of operations. Eating enough high-quality protein every meal to provide the body with amino acids that are needed to repair tissues, build neurotransmitters, aiming for enough leucine in the essential amino acid profile to stimulate MPS, muscle protein synthesis, and to maintain healthy aging. Don't fear healthy fats. We were all about keto, so I'm sure most people here are more higher fat, not scared of fat, but you have to properly digest your fat. So we need essential fatty acids, but you need to eat healthy fats with proper fat digestion. Good digest enzymes from the pancreas, good bile flow, bile being made and released from the gallbladder. Your brain, the nervous system, and every cell membrane need fats to function properly. And this is why I've done so many bile podcasts, because bile flow is essential for absorbing fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K, as well as those essential fatty acids, getting those omegas. Now, I want you to make sure you're feeding your microbiome. Maybe you don't do well with a lot of vegetables, but maybe some herbs, spices, polyphenol-rich foods, fiber that feels good for you. Beneficial bacteria will ferment these foods into what's called postbiotics, short-chain fatty acids, as butyrate. We've talked about that in separate episodes, and we have Stephen Wright coming on the show from Healthy Gut or Gut Healthy. He has some great knowledge I want to share. And then Josh Deck from Gut Solutions will come on the podcast too, talk about autoimmune health and gut health. I want you to make sure you're supporting healthy stomach acid, digest enzymes, bile flow. So you're not simply eating nutritious foods, but you're actually digesting and absorbing them. Super essential. Sleep. Now, if you're not prioritizing sleep, your quality sleep, your sleep hygiene routine, we may need to adjust our order of operations, our priorities, and create action plan, what to focus on first. Daily movement, getting outside, morning sunlight. Setting boundaries when you're on your cell phone and scrolling. I'm so anti-scrolling and being on your phone until you're ready to focus. Say like after 8 a.m., I turn my phone on. And improving your resiliency, because vagal tone, remember, is not built by nutrition alone. It's influenced by every signal your body receives. So remember, nourishment isn't determined by just what you eat. It is determined by what your body can digest, what your body can absorb, communicate, and use. That's the difference between eating healthy and becoming healthy. And that's why I always do air quotes when people say I eat healthy and exercise. What's going on? And this is why I've gotten down this deep rabbit hole and come to this place of being fit and healthy from the inside at a cellular level and working on our communication inside. Because if your body systems are not communicating together and sending the right signals, doesn't matter what you're doing for your exercise and nutrition. You have to work on order of operations, nutrition, digestion, absorption, microbiome, the vagus nerve, acetylcholine, cholinergic, anti-inflammatory pathway, and building resiliency. Each step builds upon one before it. And if digestion breaks down, absorption suffers. If absorption suffers, guess what? The microbiome will change. If the microbiome is impacted, the messages travel through the vagus nerve change. And if we have poor signals coming, the vagus nerve isn't strong, we have poor vagal tone, acetylcholine doesn't release. The amount is decreased. So then the cholinergic anti-inflammatory pathway becomes less effective. And then our inflammation is out of control. So recovery slows, resiliency declines. But when we reverse that process, everything can change. And that's why I start working on the foundations first, working on restoring flow. regulate the nervous system, improve lymphatic circulation, optimize oxygen delivery, nitric oxide signaling, support waste removal, drainage pathways, improve bile flow. We create the healthiest internal environment by restoring digestion, strengthening the gut barrier, rebuild the microbiome, support immune tolerance, improve cell communication. Only then do we personalize your future you blueprint using functional diagnostic testing, metabolic assessments, nutritional therapy assessments, clues and correlations, lifestyle medicine to identify what is preventing your body from adapting, from recovering, from thriving. Because I don't believe healthy aging happens by accident. I believe healthy aging happens to us when we understand our biology. When we start to listen to the body's signals and create the conditions where resiliency becomes the inevitable. So if this long rabbit hole episode gave you a new way of thinking about your health, I'd love to help you take on the next step. Head to debbiepotts.net to learn about my individual coaching and my new group coaching program, the Future You Blueprint, functional testing, Pinoy metabolism testing, and more ways to get educated on improving your future self. So we can stop chasing symptoms and start building the healthiest version of your future self from the inside out. Remember, life is not a race, it is a journey. And every healthy choice you make today is an investment in the person you're becoming tomorrow. Think of it as a bank account. More deposits, more deposits, less withdrawals. So until next time, this is Debbie Potts. Keep feeding your nervous system, keep building that resiliency, and keep creating the future you. Remember, the quality of your future you depends on the quality of signals your body receives today. Feed your nervous system, build the trained future you. This is what, goodness, repeat over and over again. Think about that. So thanks for listening to the whole episode if you reached this far, and I look forward to hearing from you. Head to debbiepotts.net and schedule a free discovery call with me. Thanks. Talk soon.
Thanks for listening to the Coach Debbie Potts Show. If today's episode sparked a light bulb moment, that's your sign to stop guessing and start building your personalized future you blueprint. You can learn more or book a discovery call at www.debbiepotts.net. Be sure to follow the show on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search Coach Debbie Potts. 2 T's. If this episode helped you, please subscribe, rate, and review. It's how we help more people age with strength, energy, and clarity. Until next time, remember, age is inevitable. How you age is not.